God had every reason to kill him. Under every law that governed that world, Cain should have died before the sun set on his brother's blood. He didn't. And the reason God chose something harder than death is the part almost no one ever tells you. Strip away the stained glass for a moment. Picture the actual world this happened in. There were no cities yet, no courts, no judges, no written law, no strangers passing on the road because there was no road, and there were, as far as anyone alive knew, no other people. There was one family, a mother and a father who remembered a garden, two sons who did not. This was a world where the only government was kinship, and the only justice was blood answering blood. You protected your own, and if someone harmed your own, your clan answered in kind because there was nothing else to answer with. No police to call, no judge to appeal to. Land was not scenery in this world. It was the entire architecture of survival. The ground fed you, and if the ground turned against you, you starved plainly and completely. To be cut off from your family's land was not an inconvenience. It was closer to a death sentence with the dying stretched out over years. And into that world came the first sons anyone had ever raised. Cain and Abel were not archetypes standing in for some lesson. They were two brothers figuring out, for the first time in the history of anything, what it meant to be human without a script to follow. Their parents had failed once already spectacularly and had no memory of what came after failure except exile from a garden. So when Cain brought his offering from the ground he worked, and Abel brought the firstborn of his flock, and one was accepted and the other was not. There was no precedent for what a rejected son was supposed to do with that. No older story to consult, no wisdom passed down. Just a young man standing in a field that had never before held this particular kind of pain. That is the part worth sitting with before the story moves forward. Everyone in this account, Cain, Abel, even God, in the way the text presents it, is improvising. There is no rule book yet for sibling rivalry, for jealousy, for murder, for justice. Genesis 4 is not a morality tale being read off a page that already existed. It is the first page, and that changes everything about how we should hear what happens next. Here is what the account does not rush past, even though most retellings do. After the offering is rejected, the text says Cain's countenance fell. Not that he raged, not that he swore vengeance on the spot. His face fell. A small, specific, almost domestic detail, the kind of thing you'd notice in someone you loved. It is the picture of a man losing an argument with himself in real time, somewhere between the rejection and the field. God even speaks to him in that gap, warning him that sin is crouching at the door, that it desires him, but that he can rule over it. That line is often skipped entirely, and it shouldn't be, because it means the murder that follows was not an accident of temper. It was a door Cain was warned was open and chose to walk through anyway, slowly, across what was likely hours or days of a mind wearing down its own restraint. Then comes the field. Not a duel, not a sudden explosion, a private, unwitnessed erosion. Two brothers alone with no other human being anywhere on earth to intervene, to call for help, to stop what was building. And then it happens, the first death, the first killing of one image bearer by another, committed by the one person on the planet who was supposed to be the least likely to do it, because there was no one else in the world for Abel to fear. There is another story like this waiting to be told the way it actually happened. Subscribe if you want to keep hearing the parts most versions leave out. What comes next is not comfort, it is an interrogation. Where is your brother? God asks, and this is not a rhetorical flourish. In a world with no courts, no forensic process, no way to establish guilt except by direct testimony, this question is the entire legal system of the ancient world compressed into 4 words. It is the first cross-examination in human history. And Cain's answer, "Am I my brother's keeper?" is the first recorded lie on record, and beneath the lie something even older. The first outright refusal to accept responsibility for another human life. He does not confess. He deflects. He turns the question back on the one asking it, as though accountability itself were the offense. And here is where the sentence lands, and where most versions quietly get it wrong. God does not kill him. He exiles him, cursed from the very ground he had worked, a ground that would no longer yield its strength to him, sentenced to be a restless wanderer with no fixed home. To modern ears, that sounds almost gentle compared to execution. To Cain, and to everyone who first heard this story, it was very possibly the harsher sentence. Because in that world, to lose your land was to lose your food. To lose your clan was to lose your only protection under the law of blood vengeance, the very system that governed every relationship outside the family unit. A man without land and without kin was not free. He was prey. Cain understands this immediately, and his response is not gratitude for having escaped death. It is terror. "My punishment is greater than I can bear," he says, and then names the fear plainly. Whoever finds him will kill him. He is not being dramatic. He is doing the math of his world correctly. Outside his family's protection, under the only justice system that existed, any stranger who crossed his path would be entitled, even expected, to end him, and no one would owe restitution for it, because he would belong to no one anymore. And that is when something happens that the ancient world had no category for. God marks him, not as a brand of shame for others to recognize and scorn as the story is so often taught, but as a legal shield, a sign that anyone who killed Cain would face sevenfold vengeance in return. In a world built entirely on the logic of blood answering blood, God extends the very protection of that system to cover its first violator. It is not softness. It is an intervention that breaks the era's own rules to preserve a guilty man's life. And here is the detail that unsettles people once they actually notice it. Cain does not disappear into the wilderness and die forgotten. He goes on to build the first city recorded in Scripture. He fathers a lineage. He lives. The first murderer in human history is also the first man to found a civilization. Justice at the dawn of this story was apparently never meant to be identical to vengeance. Exile, not death, was the point, because death ends the reckoning. Exile forces a man to keep waking up inside what he did with no ground that feels like his, no home that will ever again close around him the way it once did, alive and still counting the cost every single day that follows.